but turn it around.
Hello and welcome everybody. I am Ryan and tonight I am going to be hosting our second edition of the Apostate Coalition Round Table. And tonight we are going to be discussing misogyny, patriarchy, kind of everything that falls under that umbrella, because right now the world is watching us and what we do and how we are struggling with this impending, doom, cataclysm, whatever you want to call it, because we have allowed these hateful ideologies like the patriarchy to seep into every system of ours, into our school system, government, you name it. They are there. They are seeing where there's gaps and they are filling those gaps with their hateful rhetoric. So tonight we thought we would discuss some of the ways that the patriarchy and misogyny has affected us, and hopefully maybe have some ideas how we can bring some change, because, oof, it's kind of scary out there. Michelle, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience tonight?
Ladies
today,
first.
Whenever this is, whenever this is airing.
Hello. I'm Michelle. I'm from New Zealand. I go by Thatexjwwitch on most social media platforms. I was a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years, and now I talk about that.
30 years. I wouldn't even imagine that you have reached that age. So,
because I'm immature.
Right? Like
we're in good company.
I picked that perfect age that I was going to be like forever, right? And that was somewhere like between 16 and 18. I thought, like, I was just like, yeah, that's probably what I would like to be forever. That works. Dr. TimeWaster, would you please introduce yourself first?
Yes, I am Dr. TimeWaster, and I am here to help everyone waste their time as well. And
professionally.
Professionally. I take it seriously. And you may find me on TikTok, wasting my time there as well. And this is where I've met all of these lovely people. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's been great getting to mingle with people who have a similar upbringing. Joe, would you please introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Joe, and I go by Exjwfun on TikTok, and my YouTube channel is JW History Made Easy, and I was a Jehovah's Witness for about 24 years, and then during that period, I was a pioneer and a ministerial servant, so have quite a bit of history with the religion.
Wowsies. And Dr. TimeWaster, how long were you technically in for?
I'm sorry. I was also Jehovah's Witness for a very long time. Was that relevant? I'm sorry.
Damn it. Go to the back room right now. We need to have us speaking too.
It's 24 years-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I would like to say is, even though I wasn't necessarily in it per se for like 40 years, I had that cult mentality. So regardless if I was spending time in those halls or out door-to-door preaching or not, I still thought exactly like a Jehovah's Witness. I just carried probably a lot more guilt and shame. That was probably the only difference. But, well, thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope that we can maybe dive into some of this stuff and just get to know each other better too and build a little bit of community. But I definitely feel like discussing this is helpful and not harmful, and shutting up is not going to help, because we're going to end up with a nightmare that we can't reverse if we don't start addressing it. Does anybody have anything specifically that they wanted to bring up? Anything on your mind? Tell me all about it.
As far as misogyny goes?
Yes, misogyny, please.
Well, I mean, I did my research for like once.
Should I take some notes?
Yeah, I went and I decided to go to the JW.org website and I typed in the word misogyny. Have any of you done that?
No, and I'm now kind of sad that I did.
I have ADHD and I've decided to wing it.
Yeah. I was interested. Do you guys want to take a guess at how many things popped up in that search under misogyny?
I feel like maybe
Nothing.
one. It's either going to be very little or a shit ton.
I'm not sure if
That's
it's going
how
to
I
be in
feel.
their vocabulary.
Is it not?
Ooh.
Really? Okay.
Two
That's what
items
I thought
popped
it would
up when
be
I searched for it. One of them was talking about a quote from somebody talking about rap lyrics having violence and misogyny in it. And it was basically talking about how the youth should not be listening to rap music, I guess. And then
Only
the other
old
one,
people.
the other one was like about women in the organization, and the word misogyny was attached to an accusation to Paul, and saying that Paul has been accused of being a misogynist. And essentially they went through the paragraph and kind of deflected and didn't really answer the question. And then in the next paragraph, they were like, no, he's not.
Of course he's not.
And that was pretty much it. That was the lesson to learn from that.
Wow. Are we shocked? No, because them touching on a subject like that, I knew it would be see-through. It wouldn't be anything of substance.
I felt like it would be something like, it's not misogyny, it's just God's will.
I mean, that's
Like,
essentially what they did, is they said, yeah, no, Paul is doing those things.
Well,
but
that's how they frame
it's
it.
good, and God wants it that way. So
Yeah.
they didn't really say it wasn't true. They just said that it's a good thing.
Mm. And I think one of the topics we'll probably get to is about how misogyny, just so everybody knows, we understand that misogyny hurts everybody. It doesn't just hurt, it hurts every gender, every person, LGBTQI, person of color, people with disabilities. It hurts men. It hurts all of us. So I'm so glad that we have at least Joe here to kind of give us the male perspective, because I'm sure that you also have seen misogyny, faced it, and I don't even know that guys are even realizing it's happening either. Like I, for so many years, wasn't educated about it and had no idea I didn't know what it was called. I didn't even really know what feminism was. I just knew that feminists were bad, okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
They're whores. They just want to sleep around. And it's like, yeah, no.
They just hate men.
Right.
Yes.
That's the other one.
Yes.
No.
The deflection, the projection. It's misogynistic, therefore it's not really misogynistic. It's she hates men. Which is kind of the opposite. Wait, what is the word? What is the opposite word for misogynistic? Because I don't really think...
Yeah,
But
misandry.
it's not.
Okay.
It's not like.
Oh, that's like when you.
It's a
hate
byproduct
men, right?
of misogyny, though. Like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it still has miss in the root word.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
The fun stuff we get to learn, deconstructing, because this will be never a topic of conversation.
We just have to have one of those overlays. The more you know.
Have a star coming across. Here's how you recognize misogyny. Here's how you recognize gaslighting. And I don't know about you all, but do you feel like all these things hold hands, all these toxic traits somehow? Like if there was
they're intertwined.
a Venn diagram? Venn diagram where there's the circles and then you have the overlap. I think there would be some stuff in there that would be overlapping for certain. Yeah. What do you think would be some of the shit? Would be some of this shit how they connect to each other?
Well, I was gonna say I was trying to think of a good time to bring this point up later on in the discussion, but the first thing that I thought of, because you were saying like how I guess I was thinking like the headship arrangement and how that's kind of like really stressed in the organization, but also like that kind of falls on men. That falls on. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I don't know if somebody was going to say something.
Probably just my big mouth.
I was going to say that kind of falls on men too, because a lot of times, like it's not exactly the headship arrangement, but you kind of you're instructed to follow the arrangement, follow those who are put in positions of authority. So it kind of, like you said, it's all intertwined, because a lot of like, even with the cover up of child abuse and things like that, a lot of that is you follow the instruction that you're given from people who are supposedly put in positions of authority. So, you know, the elders, if they tell you something, if they tell you that this person has been forgiven for what they've done, then you forgive them. If they tell you that this, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So it just kind of all, like you said, it all intertwines with each other, and kind of like, you know, one affects the other. So you can't, like, the whole headship arrangement, I feel like, is very much tied into how everybody just kind of goes along with what's instructed, and, you know, just kind of buries their head in the sand and trusts that, you know, God's leading the whole thing and that he knows what he's doing. So, you know, we're just going to follow whoever is in charge.
Right. And you're not allowed, you don't question that headship, because that headship is put in place by God. That's what you're instructed. Michelle, would you be able to explain to people who really don't understand the headship agreement, how that works?
Sorry, it just cut out a tiny bit.
That's okay. For those who don't understand what the headship agreement is, like someone just tuning in right now and they're like, what the hell is that weird cult stuff? The headship agreement, where would a child fit in that pyramid of MLM?
The children, I don't know, I feel like the children and the woman were lumped together, but the children almost like a tiny step under the woman.
Right. They are. I can agree with that. What do you feel about that, Jane? Do you kind of agree that women and children fall in that same line?
I don't know that they actually like clearly compared them in any of the scriptures where they bring it up. They didn't like really say lump them in, but yeah, you probably could compare them. I will say I only looked up 2 phrases on the JW.org website. One of them was misogyny, and it brought up 2 search items. The other one was headship, and I only looked it up because it was mentioned in the article where they were talking about misogyny. And guess how many were in that search?
Over 100.
I bet there was like,
over like 600.
I was going to say, I bet you there's several pages.
So they had a lot to say about that. They had a lot of justifying for that going on. Like, some of it seemed kind of repetitive, and like they just kind of recycling the same
they have
phrases
to
and
keep
words,
reminding us.
Yes, you do have to keep reminding
yourself
natural. Of things that are not easy to accept and natural things to do. So yeah, it makes sense.
That's why you indoctrinate. That is the importance of the repetition, because that's what's going to get people to be able to have it sink in their head, because it isn't natural. I think it's natural to kind of critically think. I think that's what you naturally do as a child, but after a while of just getting shut down and told no, you have to follow whoever this higher up is, you just start to, after a while, you just avoid the conflict. You're like, okay, you're right.
So
I'm the bad one.
Did we all grow up raised Jehovah's Witness in this group?
From when I was 5, my mom started studying. So yeah.
Okay.
And I was like 2, I think.
Yeah.
And my mom was basically a Jehovah's Witness before that too. She believed it. She just wasn't really associated with them. So.
Right. Same with me.
So like, I grew up being told, obviously, that women were different than men and all of these things. That I read all the scriptures. They all seem familiar. I'm sure I heard them a million times growing up. But I just remember growing up as a girl, not wanting to be a girl because it seemed unfair. It seemed like boys got to do all the fun stuff. They got to have all the interesting things to do. And I remember just not wanting to be a girl.
I also remember thinking microphones.
What's that?
I desperately wanted to do microphones.
Oh yeah, that seemed like
anything.
So much fun, right?
Yeah, and not so that I can look down the shirts of the brothers.
I never thought about that.
It didn't cross my mind.
We had a circuit overseer. We had a circuit overseer who was talking to the congregation and said that he didn't want sisters to wear bow wow shirts. And they're like, what does that mean? He goes, when you lean down or when you bow,
Oh,
and the
no.
brothers go, wow. So,
Oh my God. Bow wow.
Wow. Because I just...
That's so dumb. That's
I know, I
like
was
a
like-
dad that's like a dad joke on crack. Like,
It
what
was.
the fuck?
Because I just recently,
Oh, man.
I've noticed a lot in the Exjwfun Facebook groups, a lot of the men sort of talking about how like they'd do microphones in the hopes that they could see down the shirts of the sisters and, you know, check them out. And I did a TikTok recently about like, I found the perfect sound. And I was like, I have to do this. So it's on my TikTok, but I keep seeing it repetitively, and I'm just like, why do really? Like, we were just sitting there trying to pay attention, and we were already just objectified from just sitting there.
And the worst part is no matter, I don't know how the talks went in your Kingdom Hall, because I'm finding that it's not the same as we are told. Like, that was just pounded in our head. Every congregation is the same. We do not deviate from the plan.
Unity.
You go to any Kingdom Hall and it's the same. No, it really is not. But our like talks when they would what was it called? Was it like a Thursday public talk? I don't know, but when they would kind of shame people from the platform and talk about like stuff that was happening without saying somebody's name, they were saying like who somebody was.
The
the
local needs part.
Oh yeah, local needs.
Thank you. Okay. I'm glad I don't remember that, but
Lucky we have a brother here to tell us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe I should be wearing a head covering for this.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? Joe, we demand you wear a head covering.
You can borrow mine.
Yeah, please. We want to see you wear a chain. Okay, that works. That I think it works.
Oh man.
We would always get talked about spaghetti straps. Our skirts too short. Ours too low. Too much makeup. Too many earring holes. I remember people getting in trouble for having too many earring piercings.
I just also had that on my
hair.
TikTok, and people are telling me, no one's ever said anything about earrings. And I was like, please.
Yes, honey.
Please.
Yes. Yes. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When you first leave, or at least are questioning, you honestly like don't believe a lot of this stuff because you're like, but that deviates from the plan. And I know at least they had the plan right. And when all of those backdoor things start to fall apart, you realize like this organization is built. Not the back. Oh, they know all about the back door. I bet at Bethel.
No back door. Sorry.
But everything starts to fall apart because you realize they're just some old dumb dudes making rules who really don't know much about nothing. Anyhow, that was just
I started to realize as well, like because I started doing a little series about like random things Jehovah's Witnesses can't do. And I've started to realize that apparently I was just living on hard mode as a Jehovah's Witness and paying attention and not doing the things. But there's so many discrepancies for a supposedly united worldwide brotherhood that beards are okay in the UK and some congregations everywhere else. But for the most part, I'm under the impression beards are a no-no. So it's like, I know that every now and then there'll be like a random congregation that's okay with it, but I've got a whole ton of comments from the UK saying like, I know so many brothers with beards and I'm just like, wow, okay. Yeah.
It's not as cohesive as they make it out to be.
Yes.
Everybody, I've seen people who like, I was able to play in sports, and I was like, who the fuck were your parents? I don't think you realize you probably weren't considered good association.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's how like people I knew who did things that were even my friends, my parents would consider them bad association sometimes and not let me hang out with them.
And even how like just like the decision making comes down to the local brothers. Like there's the men at the top, and it just trickles down to the other men at the top. And we're all just expected to go along with someone's interpretation of someone else's interpretation of the Bible.
Right. Joe,
Yeah.
did you have any kind of leader position in the Kingdom
Oh,
Hall? I can't
I
remember.
was a ministerial servant, and
Okay.
I was also like the only full-time pioneer in our hall. So basically every single, and I was out almost every single day. So I was almost always the one who was taking the lead,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, doing the parts, like, you know, doing the car groups and stuff like that, and saying the prayer, and like, and it gets like, this isn't to say that that it's like, oh, woe is me, but it does get to be overwhelming when you have all of that, when all of that is expected of you, and you're
Right.
like, man, like, especially like, I feel like the organization would do well to just say, hey, sisters can take the lead sometimes too, because I was working, you know, 2 jobs. I was like very exhausted most of the time. I was showing up, like I said, I was the only pioneer, so I'm showing up to the hall like run down, and then I'm like, oh, and I also have to do this thing. And, you know, and there was plenty of qualified women there that could have easily taken that step, you know,
Right.
conducted the meeting, you know. It, I don't know, like you said, it like, not like I said, I'm not trying to say, oh, woe is me, but it does, you know, it does affect everybody, because you easily could have very qualified, very capable people, you know, take these responsibilities, but they refuse to allow it to happen.
I have a question for everybody. Something just occurred to me while you were speaking, Joe, about the arrangement when it comes to, like you were saying, there was positions that somebody else could have filled. Some women who probably would have been honored to be able to do some stuff with acknowledgement, because they're doing stuff behind closed doors sometimes for their husbands anyway, books and things like that. But do you think, this was what came to my head, do you think one of the reasons why the Jehovah's Witness organization is so opposed to women being a part of their system is because, generally speaking, women bring more nurturing vibes, and that would be something that would, instead of the way it works and it comes from the top down to the bottom and the guys just speak down to the next guy and they just listen, I feel like women would maybe give some pushback. Am I wrong? But I feel like I would be like, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like what God would want to do. I feel like maybe we'd question more, and that's kind of why we've been, am I wrong? Is that ostracized from it? I could be just making that shit up.
I don't think you're wrong. I think women as men, we are all a spectrum in our personalities and things that we have to bring to the table as well. So yes, I would say you're right, but I'd also say that that's the whole point. To me, this whole issue is an issue of gender, and it's a form of conformity to try and get everyone to play certain roles so that they can predict and control us in this group better. They can better conduct meetings and control the group and have them all behave in a similar fashion if everybody's filling these roles as we've defined them to be. How dare
And
you try
separated.
and create your own role within this that's a spectrum that's a little bit of each pocket. And that's kind of not what it's allowed. You have to be, it's this or that, and there's no in between. And that's, I think that is, we've done that to ourselves as a society. We've kind of like drawn this line in the sand that doesn't necessarily exist, and that causes a lot of our own problems.
Yeah.
But yes, I think you're right. I think it's complex. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, it is.
I think that maybe that's why we have, oh shit, my thought just, I looked over at something and I just, well, you might have to edit that out, Jonathan. I just had ADHD. There was something you said and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. I want to go on that. But yeah,
I feel like collectively we would all work well better together as like a team, as opposed to like, as it trickles down, it sort of is a way to divide us and keep us controlled.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So if we were talking about problems like you would in a partnership, there's more likely with communication you'd be able to solve it. And I think people would solve their asses right out of the Kingdom Hall when they realize that the consensus is okay, so we here at this level think this, but we keep getting this from the organization. And I think you're right. By keeping us separated, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know what those letters say. We know they get two different kinds of information sometimes, what they're supposed to read to the congregation and what's behind closed doors. There's going to be people watching this who are probably going like, I don't know what they're talking about. But the people of power are the men, and when they get information from the higher ups at the organization level, it comes in envelopes, and they do as instructed. Whatever that letter says to do, they do, whether it means withdrawing all the money from every account that they have in the Kingdom Hall's name and sending it off to the governing body. They do it without questions asked. And by dividing us, where other people would say, oh, wait, no. I don't want you sending all the money that we've collectively put together for this air conditioner for this Kingdom Hall when it's 108 degrees outside. Now nobody can really say much of anything but a few of the select who know what's happening. That secretism really does a lot of harm.
I think even within, like, as the men were able to progress up and be ministerial servants or elders or what have you, I'm sure that there were probably men and brothers who would think to themselves, oh, that sounds a bit funny, or would push back, but they would be in turn, like the elders or the CEO would maybe say, oh, they don't have the right attitude to be an MS or an elder or to progress. And it's also another way to how it hurts men as well, the way the whole organization runs.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely what I saw, because as you take on any sort of position in the congregation, you're immediately under more scrutiny from the elders, and you have to follow whatever rules they put in place for you. Otherwise, they're going to knock you down a peg. And unfortunately, in the organization, because of how gossipy everything is, if you lose your position, like if you get removed as a ministerial servant or you get removed as a pioneer, everybody's going to think that you were in trouble for doing something against the rules, and then the rumor mill starts, and then you become bad association. So they really kind of have you under their thumb, because that you can't really, like, there's no honorable way to step down from some of those positions once you get there. So you basically just follow what they tell you to do.
They also wrote in one of their articles that I read that women who are married to elders or ministerial servants or whoever really in the congregation, that if they perform their wifely duties as Jehovah wants them to, that will allow their husbands to actually be able to be important members of the congregation. And so essentially just sort of put some more of that pressure on the wife as well to, if you're not doing your job, then your spouse can't be an important member of the congregation as well. So,
and with that as well, like what Joe was saying just before about all the pressure that he felt doing his duties, and then all the at-home pressure is then on the wife. It would be way better if, like, that was divvied up, like, it would be easier for everyone to sort of function better as a human in general. Yeah,
I agree.
Instead of like it being all on one man or the group of men, and all the women expected to support and do everything else behind the scenes, which may not always be the case.
I feel like this religion, though, is also designed to essentially keep everybody under the most pressure possible. Because if you're a good Jehovah's Witness, you should be the hardcore. You should be the hardcore Jehovah's Witness who's constantly feeling like you're not doing enough and that you should be doing more. So I don't know, it's an interesting state to keep everybody in.
And it's hard because, like, for me, I was a single sister for so long, and it was like you couldn't go anywhere further. Like, you'd just try, and they'll be like, oh, well, have you considered pioneering? Have you considered this? And I'm like, yeah, I have. I've done that. Now what? Like, I'm still not good enough. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And that the answer to that is marry an elder.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna
wow.
say, I feel like, and I'm sure there's multiple factors, but I've heard, I'm sure there's not like across the board statistics that back this up, but I've heard from a lot of people that they say that as far as they know, there's a lot more women in the organization than there are men. And I
Yeah,
think
I think that's true.
I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think part of the reason is when you do get to kind of, because women are kind of prevented from, like you guys said, seeing behind the curtain. And once you do get to see behind the curtain and do get to see how disorganized and how corrupt some of those systems are, you kind of lose your, it just kind of loses its appeal, and you start going, wow,
Right.
this is a very human organization with a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another problem, or that's another thing that maybe the organization, why they're so apprehensive, is because they don't want more of their members realizing the issues in the organization.
they're
Ding,
just a
ding,
business.
ding. Yeah. Right. It is such a business. I mean, I know I say this and I don't have exact evidence, but I know for sure dudes, those dudes who run the Jehovah's Witness organization are not smart at all. I do not see how they could run this organization without some help from some kind of business CEOs, shareholders, what have you, investors. There has got to be people behind those doors, like connected to a black phone line or something. You just pick up, like, we have another scandal. What do we do? And they're like, we got this. Hold on. Because they're not capable. I'm sorry. Like he said, I was just kind of speaking on how the system is just run by a lot of people who are not very educated. No offense. Hey, I'm not that educated myself. There's nothing wrong with that. But just people who are a bit more vulnerable and don't, again, if you're not asking questions because you're not allowed to, you just go along for the ride, even if it makes you uncomfortable. You're doing everything because you think those people were put there by God. And yeah, I absolutely know they're not put there by God, and I would love to know the people who are financing them. So anybody want to reach out to me if you know? Is it the Illuminati, the Masons? Help me. I'd love to know.
I was gonna say, for me, like that was one of the things that kind of woke me up, and I went into this conversation not wanting to try and make myself look good or anything, but I do know that for at least within my family, my dad is a very distant person, and he's autistic, and also he lost his dad when he was like 12, so he's kind of very, very introverted, not the kind of person who would take the lead anyway. But my mom was always that person in our home, and like that was just what I grew up with, and I never really, I don't know, I not like I'm trying to say that I wasn't affected by the way that some of those things were presented, but at least with my family, I didn't have that mentality, and I was able to rationalize it in my head when I would hear members of the Kingdom Hall kind of, I'd see sexist things, or they'd speak down on women, and I'd be like, oh, well, this person
Yeah.
obviously isn't a good person. But I was able to rationalize it in my head, saying, oh, that's not representative of the organization. This is just a bad person. But
Right.
once the governing body kind of came out from out behind the curtain, and we got to see that they are just the same as those people, I was like, oh no, this is systemic. This is right from the top. This isn't
Yes.
like you can't deny it anymore. You can't just tell yourself, oh, this is just these bad people in our hall. Like, this is the leaders of the organization who are claiming to be selected by God. These people are also guilty of this. I don't know if you guys heard that talk from oh, sorry, I'll let you
No,
go.
you keep going.
Well, I was going to say there was that talk from Samuel Hurd when he was talking about like women's brains. What do you say? Women's brains are 10% smaller than men's. And
scientists say that the cranial capacity of a woman is 10% smaller than that of man. Science also has discovered that the skull of a woman is lighter than that of a man. So now this shows that she's just not equipped for the role. of headship. Her role is one of subjection to the man. Her role is that of submissiveness, and that means that she should recognize that she is a woman and be glad to be a woman. Never want to be what you are not equipped to be.
When was that talk? It wasn't that
It was-
long ago, was it?
I
I
can't
think it was
remember
in the
exactly when.
70s.
Oh, it was in the 70s?
Yeah.
I feel like,
yeah.
okay.
I don't know if it. I honestly don't know when it was given, but
And they retracted that statement,
'Cause
right? When they
Oh,
found
did
out
they?
that it's wrong.
I.
Oh no,
I
they
don't,
didn't.
no,
They
they
didn't
didn't.
retract their
Oh.
incorrect statement.
I was like,
You got me. I was like, wait, what? They did? Oh my God. Hold the
You know, usually an organization that does nothing but pump out information for their followers should probably retract incorrect statements. But,
how
they
about
don't.
how
They-
black people will turn white in the new system? I'm still waiting to see
Waiting
a
for that
retraction
one.
on that one.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's just brushed under the cover too.
They
Or-
Well,
should.
Michael
I think
Jackson
they-
was a witness,
for
right?
them.
I mean,
Yeah.
Actually,
and
he was
I
in my
mean-
dream last night. That's so random.
Well, I've seen some Trump followers say that he's still alive. So maybe
Trump?
your dreams
Still
are telling
alive?
you. No, Michael Jackson, Trumpers. They were doing this app on their phone, Gematria.
Oh,
So they're just
God.
like
the thing that you can make anything you want. That thing, yeah.
they all have some kind of randomizer in there, and you know what I mean. They all set their own parameters for this app. But anyway, yes, some lady was typing in, well, Michael Jackson, his last concert was "This Is It," and guess what? "This Is It" equals
Oh, no.
this number. He's still alive.
No.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, you see that people who haven't been trained, who probably have been trained actually to believe very silly things, because that's kind of what the whole premise of the Bible is believing a man could walk on water and a man could kick out these evil spirits from people's bodies. So I mean, that kind of sets the standard for what you're willing to accept. I mean, if you can accept that, maybe I fart pixie dust.
I mean,
let's
you
find
just
out.
said it right there. If you can accept that a man was swallowed by a whale or a fish, lived in its digestive system for 3 full days without oxygen, probably underwater that entire time, and came out of it okay, you can probably also accept that women's brains are 10% smaller and therefore we're just not quite as good as men. Gosh darn it! And we came from a rib from a man. That's scientifically accurate. So anyway, I'm just saying, if you can believe those things, it's really easy to believe a lot of really like,
Part
nonsense.
of what woke me up was I have a relative who's very into the QAnon COVID conspiracies, and a few of the things that she was sending me was very easily debunked, and I was thinking, wow, this is just completely wild. Like, how would you connect this, and why do you believe that? It's crazy. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, what do I believe here? And this relative has always gone on about how I'm in a cult and blah blah blah, because I was the only one in my family left in it for the last, I think, 15 years. And yeah, I was just like, wait. The things that I supposedly believe are going to happen are just as wild, like just as baseless, like. Yeah.
When you have been brought up, I mean, now that I've read the Bible for myself, it's absolutely abundantly clear to me that these things do not connect the way they connect them. But you know, you just feel like, oh, they tell you that, oh yeah, see how this guy was talking about this guy, and that no. Now that I've been able to break it all down, I realize that none of it is connected. None of these guys in the New Testament knew each other. None of these writers had anything to do with Jesus, never met the guy a day in their life. But I believed it for so long because I believed when in the beginning of the Bible, where they give you the dates.
Oh yeah.
When they give you I'm sorry, I was looking at that the other day, just cracking up. Like, I can't believe I believe that. Like when Peter and all this stuff was written, but like I'm looking at the dates, and then I'm looking at the writer. So like Peter wrote Peter, and Timothy wrote Timothy. None of these, none of the things we were taught
And
was
Phil Collins
real.
wrote Genesis. I had to.
I feel it coming in the air. Oh, sorry. I love that song. The beat drops.
Yeah, maybe he can edit in a clip from that.
Yes. Jonathan, Jonathan, if you hear me, I can feel it coming in the air tonight.
Did you guys
I don't
have
know
like
why.
an advertisement on TV, a gorilla doing the drums for that song? It was for chocolate.
My husband showed me. He was like, "You have to see this video. It's like something that they always show. I think, is it around Easter time or something? They always show that video that you're talking about with the drumming, or I forget. But yeah, he
I was
showed
like, I
me,
don't
and
know
I
if it was a New Zealand specific thing, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, he's from England, so he probably would have saw.
Oh yeah,
but yeah. So I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. I like that." But anyway, yeah, monkey drumming.
Yes.
My
I
bad.
was going to say about how, like, random people in the congregation might say something sexist or like you were saying earlier, Joe. But it wasn't always like, so now that I'm out, I can see it more. It's more subversive, or I don't know if I've got the subliminal, what the right word is. That they just show women doing the cooking and the cleaning. They don't show them doing anything more than that. And it's just a constant stream of media now with the website and the app that we're just bombarded with. So they can turn around and say, oh no, we don't say that women can only cook and clean, or we don't say only women should support the elders. But they show you that in their scenarios, like at the conventions, in their magazines, and the publications. So yeah,
they always seem to show certain people performing those specific tasks, right? It's generally what they do, and it's usually a woman or maybe even just a young kid, but they don't always show the dude. I would love to see a dude. Have they shown a dude plunge in the toilet?
I don't know if I want to see that. Especially after himself.
Yeah, actually, maybe I don't want to see it, but I would just love to know. I would just like to know.
Camera zooms in. Right. I think at one convention they showed a guy cooking. I don't know. I think it was the one where there was like an implied Mexican family that I think someone was studying with. It was the same convention where they had the wife of Lot, I think. And yeah, I think the husband cooked in that video one time.
Wow.
And it's like, see?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Great job, Watchtower. You really get us in modern society. Thank you. Great.
I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it. I literally just posted it over the last couple hours, but it was one of the videos from the convention where the wife apparently was not respecting the headship arrangement enough or whatever, because I guess she had been a single mom for a really long time and had raised two kids.
I know what one you're talking about.
Yeah, and then she's the husband's trying to give the examples and stuff, and she's kind of interrupting him, and I'm like, okay, well that's rude no matter who it is, but they're trying to make her out to be this person, that it's wrong that she's contributing and wrong that she's and she's presented as kind of being more competent than he is as well, because
especially
the Watchtower says this, honey, so you're wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's a new understanding. We have an updated understanding.
Yes.
I was
I love that they included
wrong?
that, just shamelessly, oh yeah, our religious beliefs change all the time to the point where it's hard for our own members to keep up with what they believe now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was pretty surprised that they allowed that to be displayed like that, because it really does show that it can happen so often, that there's conversations where people are like, no, that's changed, and people don't know it. I mean, and I know that there's witnesses who have no idea about some of the changes, because they don't even some of them don't even know the changes about the generations and how it's come down. That was a really good point.
Yeah,
I think as well, like seeing that one where she interrupted and stuff, I was like, but that's like what a neurodivergent person would do. I was like, she's just contributing, and her mind's going, like her mouth's going faster than her mind, or vice versa, or it's all going faster than his apparently. But yeah. And a lot of people, because I did a TikTok about it as well, and they like a lot of witnesses came in there and they were like, "Oh, you've edited this." And I was like, no, it's very much the stream. I touched nothing. I added text, and I exactly for that reason, because you can't turn around and say I edited it.
that whole thing annoyed me, because I don't know if y'all felt. Did you see it, Jane? Did you get to see that part? I felt like he. Yeah. I mean, I felt like he handled it okay, I guess, for JW, but I felt like he was passive aggressive, and it really just burned my freaking britches that, like, as a head of the household, you might have think that he would maybe talk to his wife before the study. Hey, since you know the kids inside and out, how do you think I could reach them best? What do you think would be the best way to keep them interested and want to talk and get off their phones and da-da-da-da? No, he just jumps right down like any old man does before, like, warming it up and getting it wet. He just wants to stick it in dry. And the kids are just kind of like, and of course, the mom's like trying to cheer up and, oh, don't forget this. And, oh, so-and-so likes that. You know, of course, mom's going to do what mom's going to do when she knows her kids. And he's just, the fact that he was annoyed. Oh my
and how he's just like
he's right.
That was a great study.
I think he's the kind of personality that normally wouldn't have cared, but because he knows he's supposed to care, and this is his role. Now there's animosity and there's like a conflict in the relationship that probably wouldn't have been there otherwise had it just been okay that she go ahead and take the lead on something that she might be better at than he is.
Right.
And or even just teenage children from a different marriage. I mean, come on. Like,
and like how it was presented as well. I think the speaker said something about what kind of example is she setting for her daughter, and like her son has now got a man in his life, and it's been so long. And I was like, bro, like, hello, I grew up as a fatherless daughter too. Like, why is it just you know, the way that was presented, I'm sure that it was very irritating.
Busting her ass. That mom, the mom obviously has a good enough relationship with her kids that she knows what they like. I mean, obviously she's a J-dub mom, so I mean that's shit. But at least she's doing her best as a mom would do to try to bring everybody into the study as you're supposed to. Yeah,
and I think as well, like,
enjoyable family time.
The other part that they did with the ripped jeans and as well, it's always the girls' clothing, the women's clothing being policed like this, because they could have flipped that and given the boy like maybe a tank top that he wanted to wear. I don't know. I said no revealing the nipples, bro.
I've got something. How about okay, I'm not going to get too personal, but how about they talk about men's dress when they're at home? Do your underwear have shit stains in them? Do your t-shirts have yellow, dried, crusty stains in them? Could you maybe make yourself a little more appealing?
I'm like, and I'm like, no, wait, no.
But it's always focused when it comes to like the Kingdom Hall and how it's dressed. It's always focused on the women inside and out, and they can barely pick anything about the guys except for tight pants Tony.
Tight pants,
and obviously, like, tight pants means you're attracted to the same sex.
It's all about the male gaze. Even for men,
the male gaze,
which is the point of misogyny as well, is that it affects everybody. It affects women, it affects men, and it's all about the male gaze, and that's it.
Yeah, and I remember when that talk came out, I talked to a couple of my female friends because, like I was saying about being able to deny it when it comes from individual members of the congregation, but when you see that kind of stuff coming from the governing body, you're like, okay, wow, this is, beyond the pale. But I talked to a couple of my female friends, and I was like, "Well, what do you guys think of tight pants?" They're like, "We like them." And I was like, "That's what I thought." And I was somebody who like always hated them because I'm the kind of person who wants to be able to like move very freely, and I don't like being, constricted at all. But yeah, like a lot of my male friends wore them, and I just thought it was such a stupid hill to die on and a stupid thing to have an issue with. And so I think I've told this story a couple of times, but I did talk to one of my elders about that. And I was like, this just seems so dumb that he would say that, like that it's like some kind of secret conspiracy by gay people to get people to dress in tight pants. I'm like, that seems so weird. And this elder who was like basically somebody who had taken me under their wing and like was one of the reasons that I became a Jehovah's Witness, he looked at me and he was I've never been like given that kind of look before my entire life. And he goes, the governing body is the highest authority on the planet. When the highest authority on the planet, yeah, he goes, when the highest authority on the planet tells you something, you listen. And I was like, and that was like one of my moments where I was like, okay, like I am not there with you, bud. Like I and that was one of the things that kind of started waking me up, as I was like, yeah, I don't feel that way at all. So you and I are on completely different, we're having completely different experiences here, because that's not how I viewed it whatsoever. So
I'm so glad you realized.
Yeah, it was just one of those weird things, but anyway.
Yeah, so the governing body wasn't like a visible thing when I was in.
Right.
I mean, we knew the governing body were there. Like, yeah, they were in New York and they were putting together these things and they were praying to God to put the right words on the paper or whatever.
Spiritual food.
Yeah, I didn't know who anyone were. I didn't know what they looked like. They didn't say anything. And nobody certainly said, well, the governing body said this and they are the highest authority on earth. Like, nobody ever told me those things. They would just say, Jehovah said these things.
Yeah.
Or their governing body. And so, like, I just believed that Jehovah said all these things. But now it seems like they're not even pretending that it's not the governing body saying these things. But we're just supposed to take that they are speaking from Jehovah, and Jehovah's words are coming out of their mouths. Yeah. And I've heard some of their talks. I'm sorry. I've dealt in some very high academic communities. I've heard some amazing speakers and some very intelligent people talking on very intelligent topics. And the governing body do not inspire me at all in any of
They've just
the things
gotten
that I've
slower
heard
as well.
It's they're talking slower,
more childlike. Yeah. Like
yes.
Just
Stephen Lett is like the antithesis of a cartoon character that has been super dumbed down to like third grade level. And the way that he just talks so slow and every word out of his mouth seems over pronounced. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know him from before because, as you said, Dr. TimeWaster, they were kind of like Oz, like the guy behind the curtain. You really didn't know much about them. But now that they've kind of stepped out into the limelight, the first time I saw a video of that guy was after I was like starting to question and deconstruct. And I just remember feeling like, this is who's been like giving me instruction about my life and telling me that I'm a bad person making mistakes. This guy, the guy who looks like he wets the bed, this guy. Oh my Lord. Yeah, that was really kind of like a wake up. This isn't what I thought it was whatsoever.
I definitely remember like around the same time, like, because I guess I sort of went through the change from behind the scenes to out in front. The time before they put themselves out there, a lot of the stuff was like a bit more difficult to understand and comprehend. all of the information that they were putting out. But then I feel like since they started doing the broadcasts, everything is like way more simplified and just very dumbed down for us.
I think that at least what I can remember being like a teenager, kind of just starting to get into the religion, is I felt like there was a whole bunch to learn because they had like this Daniel book, I think there was the Revelation book, there were so many books that we were going through, and there's so many. It's not simple, really, all the things they want you to learn. When you come out, you realize how stupid it was, but there's so many pieces that they confuse you with when you first get in, and it seems like, wow, they've done some detailed work. But now that I know
anti-types.
Yes, and now that I know that they're getting rid of a lot of that, like they don't do that anymore, right? Isn't the archetypal kind of thing out the window? I'm pretty sure I just heard that at this last convention. But anyway, it just seems so dumbed down. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it was, I'm trying to think, it wasn't what is his name? One of the governing body members. This was back in 2015, because this was one of the things that made me think, oh, maybe they're going to change the 1914 teaching, because that was kind of what woke me up, was in 1914, 1919, like reading the Gentile Times Reconsidered. And then like after I read that, I was like, wow, this is 100% false. Like there's absolutely no way that this is true. And then what is his name? Well, he came out, he's one of the governing body members. He came out and said that they were going to be doing away with that type and anti-type kind of teaching, and that they had moved away from it. And so he said, unless the Bible directly says that this, something's going to have a secondary fulfillment, then we're not going to apply a secondary fulfillment to it. And I was like, oh, good. So, we're getting rid of the 1914 teaching. We're getting rid of, and then
the other doctrine.
Yeah. I was like, nope.
Countless others.
Yeah. They kept all of that stuff. So I was like, well, what was the point of saying that if you're just going to keep all this stuff that obviously is not directly said in the Bible? I mean, they even kept, what the God's Kingdom Rules book, they still say that Charles Taze Russell was like dual, the prophecy about John the Baptist. The Bible says something about there's one calling out in the wilderness and something like that. And they said that John the Baptist was an initial fulfillment of that scripture, but Charles Taze Russell was a secondary fulfillment of that scripture. And I was like,
oh my Lord!
What are
John
you talking
the Baptist.
about? Yeah, I'm like, and there's so many of those things.
Charles Taze Russell.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things where
definitely on the same level.
Yeah.
One was a megalomaniac who took a bunch of money from silly people who didn't know, and so he could build his printing presses. And the other guy just baptizing people out in the wilderness. Yeah, I definitely think they compare. Yeah, saving lives, making money.
I was going to say, oh, sorry. I don't know if you guys, or I don't know how long you guys were planning on going.
No, go for it. I was just going to say, wow, but.
No, I was going to say, when we were talking about misogyny, I remember an experience that I had that, again, was something where I was able to kind of brush it off as, oh, these are just people who are like this, but that isn't representative of the whole organization. When I went into, they had a meeting at one of the assemblies for the Bible School for Single Brothers. It used to be like MTS, and then it became Bible School for Single Brothers. But I went to that meeting, and the guys who were conducting the meeting, encouraging us to go, were like extremely demeaning towards women, to the point where like the entire meeting was basically them just dissing on women and how like how bad, like. And I think the goal was to make us go, okay, yeah, we don't want to get married right now. We want to focus on the organization. And they said something like, the one guy was like, if you're interested in a pretty girl now or something, like forget about her, because once you go through this course, you'll have your pick of whatever girls you want or something like that. And I was like, what the hell am I listening to right now? Like,
Yeah.
so I was like,
Yeah.
it was, and they were talking about how, women will deceive you, and that they're deceptive, and that, that you end up in bad marriages and stuff like that, and how they should just kind of focus on getting doing the course. And I remember leaving that meeting going, okay, I want nothing to do with this. And then I think it was a year later, I heard of the Bible School for Christian Couples, and I was like, oh, that's, maybe we're making progress. They're letting, women in, but then it was like, oh, but they have to be married to a man, and like you had to have been pioneering together for like 3 straight years or something like that in order to qualify for the course. And I was like, oh. But then finally, I guess within the last couple of years, now they have the Bible School for Kingdom Evangelists, and I don't think I think women don't have to be married in order to be able to go to that school. So that's like, I think that was like a little olive branch that they gave, where they're like, okay, you can have this one school where you get to devote yourself to us, and we teach you all this stuff, and then you go and preach for us for free. So, aren't we so progressive?
Wow. Man, I wish I would have known they were saying all that kind of stuff. That is that is really hurtful. Oh
Even
gosh.
like the part about women being deceptive, and it's like, okay, bad marriage because the woman was deceptive. Like how when women, like, there's so many instances of abuse, and the wives cannot leave the men, the brothers, because of the whole divorce thing. And it's like, okay, well, we're like, how to what extent would a woman deceive you before marriage that it will affect your physical, well-being, and in the same sense that, there are women being abused by their husbands in the organization, and they cannot leave. Like,
it's
I mean, I know that there are cases, and it's not black and white, but just to to put that out there like that is just wow.
Yeah, I had quite
overblown. No, I'm just saying, whatever it is, it's overblown. Everything's overblown, so that way it can be a situation, so it can be a problem, so they can have some kind of control. Sorry.
That verse, I think I had no idea about it until after I left, where if a man and another man were fighting and his wife intervenes, her hand can get cut off. Like, if she touches his private parts. Like, how many times did that happen to that specific Bible writer that he was like, you know what? Screw this. Going in the freaking Bible.
I know when I go to break up a fight between two men, my hands immediately go to the genitals.
Right? Whoopsies. What's that?
I mean, I kind of want to try it now, because I feel like it would be effective. They'd both be surprised. Yeah, exactly.
Just wail them. I think they both would stop.
Like dog training, just give them a distraction.
Oh, man.
Stop fighting. But yeah, like, even like to the point where it's
all
two
of the
men
world
fighting,
times. We could end
and
wars.
the woman gets her hand cut off. We could. Have you just tried touching a penis? No more wars.
I have tried that.
Oh my Lord.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, the mental gymnastics that you had to jump through in order to justify some of that stuff, because I remember that was like something that I used to do all the time in the halls. I'd, like, when we were doing the weekly Bible reading. Oh yeah, no, not touching people's penises. That's not what I was doing.
And my hands weren't cut off. Sorry.
No, but I remember, like, there were so many things, like the scriptures about, like, when they conquered that nation, and they were supposed to kill everyone but the virgin girls, and then they'd take them for themselves. And then there was
the Midianites.
yeah, and then I think there was more scriptures about you would allow them to cut their hair and mourn for a month. And like, and I was trying to like, we were going through this, so I was trying to give that as a thing, like, you know, Jehovah allowed them to mourn for this period of time because of the deaths of their family. And I'm like, I'm trying to rationalize this and justify it in my mind, but I'm like, and it like, I remember a couple people like came up to me afterward, and like some of them are like, we really appreciate the, you know, the research that you do, but some of them were like, why do you keep talking about this stuff? And I'm like, and am I the only one that's getting bothered by this? Like I'm going out of my way to try and explain this stuff away. And,
Right.
and everybody else is like, why do you keep talking about this? And I'm like, because it's bothering me. Like, anyway.
And you get the same recycled stories over and over and over. It's the repetition just drove me wild. I could not do it I could not be a Jehovah's Witness now. I could not stand to listen to that, to how they talk, the demeanor in which they talk, the condescending tone in which they talk.
I just can't believe that women are inferior to men. Like, there's just too much evidence that says that we may have some differences biologically and socially, but some of those social changes are affected by how we force each other to behave socially. Also, sexual selection is a big part of this. I think that's why so many people get so upset about genders, because genders, the way that we show outwardly to everyone else, our sexual preferences, so that we can find mates. And people who really want to find a mate get very angry if they feel like that's not the one I wanted, but you looked like the one I wanted, and they get very upset about that. So I think that's a big part of what drives a lot of the anger and frustration behind all of the gender norms, and why a lot of people want everyone to just follow the rules and behave like you're supposed to, so that everyone can just happily find a mate.
And so they know where that person fits in the hierarchy of this country too. I mean, not that there should be some kind, but they, you know, a man wants to know if he can own you, if you can be property. And that's just how I feel. But it makes it easier. It makes it so much easier if you can just, I mean, gosh, the way that some of these white Christian nationalists would want it, I guarantee you they'd be putting us in coverings like long skirts and stuff like that. But yet they want to make fun of other people's religions because they do that kind of stuff. Not that I think that's acceptable either, but they would happily do the same here and put us in something more, what they term modest, but it's simply just them not being able to realize that you're just sexualizing my body. No matter what I do, how I look, how I dress, you're taught to sexualize me. It's part of the whole patriarchy. It's a freaking setup, and they've been trained in it from infancy. I'm sorry. I take it back. No, I'm just I love the patriarchy. Just
okay.
Oh, hello, puppy.
I will go down fighting, just so you know, little one. The patriarchy can't take me. Oh, what's puppy's name?
It's Nacho.
Nacho.
Yeah,
So
he's
Nacho.
13.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Anyway.
Yeah, I remember as far as sexualizing people, I had a friend of mine who was in our hall, and to put it lightly, she was very well endowed, but it literally nothing that she wore was good enough. Like she literally had like full turtleneck sweater, like her entire like it was long sleeve, like her entire body was covered, and she was still getting talked to about how inappropriate her dress was. And I'm like, there's nothing this poor girl can do about it. Like, it is what it is.
Right.
Like, but
have you tried plucking out your eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say,
Let her exist.
I think one thing that really like is negative within the organization, I'm sure we all know it, but the fact that because people can't get divorced and because, you know, you're not allowed to have sex before marriage, it's like a lot of people end up getting into really bad marriages. And it's one thing that I was warned about, like incessantly, is that the right word? But
Yeah.
repeatedly, a lot of guys and girls would come to me in my hall, which was kind of awkward, but they'd be like, I did not know my mate before we got married. Had I had a chance to get to know them, I would not be married to them. Make sure that you know who you're getting married to. And like, I saw that so much that like, it was really difficult for me to imagine a life and a good relationship with someone, because all I was seeing was all of these bad marriages where people were basically stuck with someone that they didn't want to be with. And so that gave me a really negative view of relationships in general. But yeah, that I think, like you guys are saying, as far as sorry, I was trying to tie this back to what we were talking about as far as like dress and grooming and stuff. But I think in a lot of situations, a lot of people in the hall are very they're not confident in how their relationship, like they're not confident in their relationship. They know that their mate may not even want to be with them. And so I think that plays into a lot of the policing other people, because, oh, you're attractive. Like our relationship is on the rocks. It's your fault if my mate is feeling these, a certain way or whatever. And they put the blame on that individual rather than saying, no, maybe you and your mate are not happy together, and maybe they're looking at someone else and you're getting jealous, and you know what I mean. Like, I think that the witness organization would be a lot better off if people, when they realized that the marriages weren't working, they could just separate without but unfortunately that's not the way it works.
Nothing back. But when you're raised to choose your mate based on their spirituality, it doesn't translate to the real world. Like, okay, that's great that they have some privileges in the Kingdom Hall, but that spirituality doesn't really work like spirituality does in the real world. It doesn't mean you're going to be a good partner who cares and knows how to take care of somebody just because you know some Bible principles that you're supposed to. Doesn't mean you've been trained in how to.
Plus, when you're getting
even
married,
like the timeline. Yes. Yeah. You're getting married young, and you can only court for like 6 months or so. Otherwise, people are like, "What are you doing?"
People will start talking and assuming that you're doing it anyway if you wait too long.
Yeah. And you're supposed to be chaperones. Like, you're never going to get a thorough judgment, I guess, on who the other person is before you do get married and you are stuck. Yeah. I dated for 2 years and I got so many looks when I was dating my ex. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank goodness we did not get married.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Yeah, that's great.
And I'm sure they think the same now that I'm a big old scary apostate. But yeah, it's funny just the way that whole dynamic works as well, because if I was talking to my guy friends and he happened to be married, all of a sudden the wife would sort of come along and link her arm in and what are you talking about? And it's like, I'm just like, we were friends for years. Like, I just, why you don't need to be like this? I'm not trying to steal your man.
Yeah, very competitive, even when not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also just part of the whole shunning and not shunning, but shaming sex. So, I mean, everything is built upon doing that. Even how many times do they talk about what married couples should even do? And it's, I'm sorry, nobody's business. But my mom was, my parents got divorced when I was 5. And my mom moved back to her hometown and kind of a bigger city. And so we were in a bigger congregation. And my mom also she was single, but she was also taking care of a handicapped daughter. So it was like consuming all of her time. My mom did not have time for anyone. She had a very incredibly full plate on her, with my sister being in and out of the hospital and all of the stuff going on with my sister. Yet somehow I think about 6 women in the congregation at some point accused my mom of trying to steal their husbands. And I remember one woman in particular doing it quite dramatically at a convention and confronting my mom. And
Stop.
no, like, no, I'm sorry, nobody
No,
wants your
lady.
husband. He's kind of a
Yeah.
weirdo. Like, it was
Right.
just one of those kinds of situations. And I
Right.
just remember thinking, like, is this it? Is this what I have to look forward to? Like, being in this kind of environment where if I do marry someone in the congregation, people are going to talk about me. If I don't marry somebody in the congregation, people are going to talk about me. I just don't want people to talk about me. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
Even-
all I could think of, is I
Yeah.
just didn't want to be part
Leave me
of this.
alone.
Even
The
the whole,
gossip
like, the
and all
way
that.
that there is the gossip, and they frame it as just a sister's problem when it's not.
Mm-mm.
It is
no,
a way,
no.
though, that women would be able to sort of control that part of that aspect of the JW environment, because they can't have any of the privileges. They can't participate in the top, but you will still have that little hierarchy of, like, elder's wife and, like, her little clique, and then they'll trickle down, like, their made up rules as well that you need to follow along with in the gossip and everything. But I've come to realize it's all just a byproduct of that environment, because you don't need to talk about things like that if you're happy in your own life. Like, you don't need to be controlling who such and such is dating, or why are they wearing their hair like this, or is that hemline a centimeter too short. Like, there's no reason to be doing that when you're living a happy, fulfilled life. There's no reason.
And gossip, did y'all see I don't know if it's a study, an article or whatever, about how gossip it's part of the patriarchy. It's just a way to make women look bad for when we communicate, because, we communicate in circles sometimes. And just sometimes the things we say are, I don't know, maybe silly, who don't need to be talked about. I don't know, but I think that's everybody's conversation anytime. But a lot of times we're talking, like as we're doing now, just more in public, about things that are important that need to be changed. And that was a way of squashing, by calling it just petulant, dumb talking. Gossipers, you're a gossip. We're coming for your ass.
I'm going to forget this as well, but even going back to what you were saying about controlling in the bedroom, that was another way to control women as well, because if you're not giving your husband his dues in that respect, there were public talks given to make sure that, if you're on your period, if you've got a headache, you can't say no. Like, the only time you can say no, I think, it was if you were on your period. Like, from the brother that gave the talk that I sat through very awkwardly.
I remember those talks. I don't remember the specifics, but I wouldn't.
That one was just horrific. I think
I would not be surprised,
because I have endometriosis, and I was sitting there as a single sister thinking, that's why it stuck with me, because I was like, am I ever going to have sex? Like, if I can't have it when I'm on my period, like if I this, that, and the other thing, but like, to have that specific instruction in a public setting like that, and just how you can't do this, you can't do that, and what is appropriate and what is inappropriate in a Jehovah's Witness marriage, like to just come down to that is just ridiculous. Sorry if that was TMI, but I just
no, it's a very personal subject that some dude who doesn't know you should not be making for you and your family. They shouldn't be worried about what you got between your legs, what you're doing with what you got between your legs. That's between you and your partner.
Which is also why conformity is not a great one-size-fits-all situation, because they are up there giving advice, essentially, to everybody as if, I've got this, guys. Don't worry. I'm going to say something that's prolific and profound that will affect everyone equally the same. No, it doesn't. And it causes great harm to some people because they're not willing to look at the subtleties. And if they're not willing to look into women and what goes on with women and struggles that women face, and they don't even talk about it, they don't understand it, and they're not going to understand why everybody can't just conform to the rules, because it should be easy, because they don't understand. They've never had endometriosis. They've never held the hand of somebody who's had endometriosis and is in a lot of excruciating pain during this process. Like, clearly.
And
I
because
think
they don't
because
have
like
anybody
just
else giving them input, sorry, just, they don't have anybody
yeah.
else giving them input. They're in this echo chamber.
Bubble, a
Everybody's saying,
silo.
right, everybody's saying the same thing, and it's all like, it's really bad
It's male
information.
dominated as well. Like
Yeah,
it's not
right.
because I think one of the things that they've done research on is that this might be TMI once again, but that's just me. To orgasm while you're going through period pain is helpful. Like it's going to help you.
Yes. Yeah.
And to sit there and be like, no. Like first of all, you can't touch yourself. Second of all, when you do have a husband, you can't at that time of the month either. So it's just like, man,
You
like
exist
you don't even know what
only
you're
for
talking
your
about.
husband's pleasure.
Mhm.
Not
If
for
you've got a
your own.
headache, you can't say no. Like
Mhm. Your
just
body
wrong.
is not your own, and when you're
Your
married,
husband can clearly serve Jehovah better if he's orgasmed.
what?
He can write a better talk with his hands if his penis is taken care of.
Right? He has more blood. The blood eventually goes back to his brain again, and it's like new blood that he hasn't had before. It's probably blood that was stuck in his penis.
Assuming he
Instead
wasn't
of the
wearing
new
tight
light,
pants.
it's the new blood.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
Yeah. I was gonna say that was another thing that really, like, I don't know, that was one of the first things. Of course, I'm a teenager and kind of like thinking about that kind of stuff, but I was privy to a lot of conversations that I probably shouldn't have been when I was young, because a lot of the sisters were friends with my mom, so they kind of all talk, and I'd hear about how dissatisfying their sexual life was. And
Oh,
so that was something, as I was growing up,
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I don't want this for my relationship. I want my partner
Right.
to be happy in our relationship and to enjoy themselves. So like as I'm like getting older, I'm like, researching things. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like understanding the female body. And then like I'm like, okay, I think that I know what I would need to do to please my partner. And then all of a sudden, I like, as I'm getting older, I'm reading up all these rules that, like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that. And it's like, wait, what, like, so like you guys said, it's like very, like, basically, if you're a guy, you're fine, you'll have your needs taken care of, but don't you dare do anything that's going to make your female partner enjoy herself. Like,
yeah.
that's off limits. So it's
Right.
like, yeah.
It's so weird.
I think I had to word something for my TikTok about, like, basically that the only acceptable form of Jehovah's Witness sex was missionary. But I worded it that way
too. I don't know. Yeah, I've heard that. I
But
don't know where it's written, if it's written, but I'm like, I
not
don't think
specifically
so.
like that. It's more like you can't do anything else. Like, you can't do backdoor, you can't do oral. I think now they've made it a bit more like relaxed.
Why are they talking about it?
But why was it even said in the first place? Yeah. Heavy petting. No heavy petting.
Oh god, they love the heavy petting. I remember the heavy petting from when I was
I was
teenager.
confused when I was a kid, and I was like, why are there pets involved? Like, what?
I thought heavy petting was just like breathing loudly and like literally just.
I was like, why?
I guess it's a thing people do when they're excited, is they just touch each other.
Oh my god, that's so funny. They're teaching us stuff and we're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh. It's the untaught teaching the untaught.
Exactly.
The dumb leading the dumb, basically.
Yeah, I think you had asked why they started talking about that. Have you read Crisis of Conscience by Ray France? Okay,
not yet.
He goes into why that became a thing, because I guess they were getting, once the governing body kind of evolved into this like rule making body that like kind of went into all the minutia of every possible scenario, and is this acceptable, is this not acceptable. They were getting a bunch of letters from people saying, oh, like, I guess somebody had gone into somebody's room at their house and found a book that was like the Kama Sutra or something like that, and they were like, oh, they're doing these sexual things. So then they reported it to the elders, and the elders were investigating it, and then so they wrote the governing body, and they're like, hey, is this kind of sexual stuff allowed? And so the governing body had to talk it over, and they put out their decrees saying no, it's not allowed. And they even, some of those things were like borderline, like the elders should investigate and stuff like that. And so for a long time there, they had elders literally taking couples into the back room and like interrogating them on their sexual habits and what they were and were not doing, and disfellowshipping people if they were doing oral or like it was really bad.
Tell
and
me
then
how you're having sex.
yeah and
I'm gonna need to
Where do
find
you
that
put your
passage.
penis at night?
But yeah,
I
it
need to
was-
find that and stick that on my TikTok, because people have been arguing with me in there, and I'm just like, no.
yeah,
It's a
I
thing.
made a couple of videos on that. I if I can find them, I'll send them to you, because it has the
Thanks.
links to the articles. But yeah, and then
Legend.
he also said that somebody had written to the governing body. I guess this was a guy who had been in some sort of accident, and I don't know the full extent of his injuries, but it made him incapable of having sex with his wife. But he wrote the governing body and said, this is a way that I can please my partner. This is a
Sit
way
on
that
my face.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
and the governing body told him, no, you can't.
Mustache ride.
You're not allowed to do this. And so like I don't know. It's just, there's so many things where I'm
Wow.
just like, these people have no concern
But you
for
know
the
what?
lives that they're destroying and the relationships that they're
Yes.
affecting by
I'm
telling
sorry,
people what they
honey.
are and aren't allowed to do.
I know I'm disabled, but 8 men in New York told me that I can't pleasure you. I'm sorry.
Right. How ableist
Yikes.
honestly, we
Yeah.
know that they're ableist, but that is point proven. There are some people who need to do different things to orgasm or to help their partner orgasm because of whatever they've got going on. And the governing body is going to tell you that's not allowed. Just like they'll tell you you can't have a blood transfusion if you're, what if, is it sickle cell anemia, whatever diseases there are that you need constant. They're just going to tell you no. Don't enjoy your life. Go die. That's
It's
it.
a sacrifice God wanted you to make.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Right. Oh, the ableism is just
It's so bad.
It kills me.
Just go die.
Right.
I mean, no
I
orgasms. Might as well.
It's what they're saying.
You know,
It's what they're
it's what
saying.
they preach anyway. They're preaching that anyway is worldwide destruction. So yeah, it's like
Yeah.
very on brand for them.
They put it in a pretty package. They take that misogyny and they put it in a pretty little package of, oh, hi, I'm here to give you this good news of everlasting life. Wouldn't you want to be friends with a lion too?
Yes.
And when you start to open the literature and take a deeper look, you see they got freaking pictures of dead kids and dead animals and, police raids and all kinds of stuff, war machines. It's packaged pretty, but the inside is rotten to the core. It's filled with misogyny.
And
all those everything that falls under it, because I feel like it all kind of holds hands, all those systems.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny to see how many witnesses, including myself while I was in, deny what the organization actually teaches. Because I think a lot of people just kind of push some of those those more violent and disgusting teachings kind of to the back burner and, convince themselves, no, that's not what we actually believe.
Right.
Jehovah's gonna read
Sorry.
people's hearts. He's not just going to kill everybody.
I was trying to put my dog on the bed and he fell off.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. Not Joe. I'm
Nacho!
sorry.
It was really bad because he hit his head on the stand. I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I was like, I'll
laughing.
just do this quickly on the background. No.
Oh.
Yeah,
He's
try
super
again.
cheesy now. Of course,
Wait,
Joe.
there we go. Sorry, my
What were
bad.
you saying, Joe? Sorry, buddy.
No, I was just saying about I think I lost what I
I'm
was
so
saying.
sorry.
It's all right. Just Jehovah's Witnesses denying what is actually taught and kind of having a more like rose-colored glasses view of
Cherry
things.
picking.
But then when you actually like say,
Yeah.
well, this is what the magazines say, like this is what your organization teaches, then they're like, oh, okay, maybe that is what we teach. But like, I think a lot of people have, because I remember when I was leaving, I had a conversation with my mom, and I was like, our religion literally teaches that if you are not part of this group, then God is just going to murder you. And she's like, well, that's not true. Jehovah's going to read our hearts and stuff like that. And I was like, no. And I brought out a packet that I had taken from the Watchtower Library of all of these quotes that said, like, you know, once Armageddon comes, there's no chance. And Jehovah's Witnesses are the only ones with a scriptural hope of surviving and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, that is not what they teach. And like, yeah. Anyway, I think a lot of witnesses don't even want to admit it because they know how horrific it is.
Yeah. And education is going to be the biggest thing to combat. It's going to be our biggest thing that we have in our back pocket to fight some of this stuff. And
not just education, but confronting people's ideas and beliefs, challenging people.
Yeah.
Discussing. I had a conversation with somebody. I'll just not say who it is. And we were talking about misogyny in the Bible and in the religion, and it became very clear to me that this person did not see it as misogyny. They did not deny that these things were there. They just didn't really see it as the same thing. They saw it as the natural order of things more than anything. Like, this is what God said would happen, and therefore it's happening. Adam and Eve, this X, Y, and Z happened. And that is the downstream of why this is. And, it's not great, but, it was just predicted that this is what was going to happen. And so some people just see it as maybe not necessarily a good or bad thing, but it just is. This is just the natural order. This is nature. And so why question it?
Typical Christians taking everything in the Bible literally because it suits them. But if they want to take something as an allegory, they'll certainly do that. Maybe when it was supposed to be literal, they just change the terms and definitions as they go. Boy,
do we get to challenge this concept? The concept that women are lesser than men or different than men or don't deserve as much. I think that's just silly. Actually, that one article that I read, I was curious. One of the things that they kept going back to, and this was in all of my 600 search items that I pulled up for headship as well, is they kept going back and quoting Paul and a lot of the writings that Paul had about women, and I'm guessing that's the majority of the Bible that has anything to do with men being more important than women, because it came up a lot. But like, they also were making the argument that there's a scripture that says that neither slave nor free man nor Jew nor Greek, there's neither male nor female, you're all one in union with Christ. Which I kind of was just, they were using that as an example of why it's not misogynistic. See, it's not misogynistic. You're all one with Christ. But all that told me was that Jesus is not misogynistic. It doesn't tell me that Paul isn't misogynistic, because he's saying a lot of things that say women should shut the fuck up. Women should do all these things.
Yeah.
But if you believe in Jesus, Jesus doesn't care if you're man or woman, you're all the same under him. So that's really kind of all that told me, was that according to Jesus, he doesn't care. But according to Paul, he does care. And the Bible, and because it says that in the Bible, and because Paul's words made it into the Bible, therefore God wants those things to happen. Is that the gist of it? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that, do I understand this correctly?
As far as Jesus goes, I think if I believe that he was a person, if he was a real person, what the writings say about this particular person, is that you're supposed to respect your neighbor, point blank. They might not believe, great, they do believe, super, but respect them. That is really what I would get if I was just an alien picking up the book. So just the New Testament, I'm saying. So I don't, all this other inference and people writing letters, and because this person wrote a letter, that means this is who we're supposed to follow. Oi, no, don't like it.
Yeah, getting back to what you had said, and forgive me because I don't remember your first name, but Dr. TimeWaster. I'll just refer to you as that. But
the doctor.
She whips out a little pen. Or magic, or what was it? The screwdriver?
My sonic screwdriver. Yes.
No, I was gonna say that a lot of times they, like you said, they would just like bring up a scripture that was kind of like inclusive, and then be like, "See, because the scripture is in the Bible, therefore that completely negates how we run our organization and everything about how we operate." It's like, wait, okay, so you pay lip service to this one scripture, but that's not how you treat anybody. So what is that? How does that mean? Like, what is that?
That was their argument for why Paul wasn't misogynistic. Because, see, he said nice things about women in this scripture over here. He praised a woman. Therefore, he couldn't possibly be misogynistic.
Right.
Because he said something nice about one woman who probably did him a favor or did something nice for him first.
And one of the things they never address when it comes to Paul that drives me freaking nuts, that I wish I would have known, that there is nothing original about his writings. They're literally copies of copies of copies of copies. And we know that a lot of these copies are wrong because we have some of the other manuscripts where actually Paul is one of the more progressive people and says women should have a place in church, but they edited some of his writings to switch the paragraph around to make it look like women should be silent in church, when it actually was telling them, aren't you imperfect yourself? Yeah. Pretty wild stuff. So do I like Paul? No, but he actually would be cool with women being deacons and preachers and stuff in the church. I mean, he mentioned people by names. But anyway, it just goes to show that, like Joe was saying, lip service. They'll happily show you look, Deborah, look how important Deborah was. See, God loves women. But you can't speak in church unless you have a head covering and there's somebody who isn't smarter than you in the building. Like,
even the fact that there are women anointed or anointed women, and none of them are on the governing body, and like how that would play out in a congregation structure. If there's a anointed woman in the congregation, she's still going to have to be under the elders.
Right.
Like,
so she can sit side by side with Jesus up in heaven, right? She'd be like, yo, Jesus, how you doing today, dog? Cool. Nice to see you again.
But by here on earth, she's like, oh, so sorry. I got to listen to the brother.
Did I offend you, brother, with my tiggle bitties? I'm so sorry. Oh, did you accidentally sexualize me because I exist? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Even like, I think it was a few years ago, I had a guy friend in the congregation, and he was I was in a Spanish congregation, and he was from Colombia, and he was here trying to run the field service group, and was sort of directing where we should all go. And a sister who's from here was like, no, actually, I think it makes more sense if we go this way, and this way, because, it's going to save on gas, time, etc. And he got so offended, like he was talking to me afterwards. He was like, I cannot believe like the women here, how they just speak like this. I could never marry a Kiwi woman, and I just think it's so unacceptable, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I cut him down. Wow. I was like, no, but you were wrong. And he, like, from that moment on, I got labeled a feminista. just for that, being like, well, she was right.
I think I'd like
she was right.
Yeah, honestly, me too. Shit. But yeah. So is that what they call you, is Kiwi?
Yeah,
New
yeah.
Zealand.
It's not offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Kiwi's fine.
I just wanted to. I mean, I've heard the term before, but I didn't really
Yeah.
know exactly what it referenced.
I thought
so.
it was affectionate. Like,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So
But yeah.
telling me something. I'm like, oh hey, Kiwi. What, bitch?
well, when you went by a sandwich, I didn't realize that that was a derogatory term that people would call you sand people, or I didn't know that that was
Yeah.
something that people used. I thought you were just making a
I
pun
thought it was
about
about
being
sandwiches.
a sand and a witch.
Well, yeah,
Sandwich.
that's why I thought it was like perfect. I thought it was like the ultimate nickname because it includes like part of my ethnicity with Lebanon, Syria, and then plus I love to motherfucking eat, and goddamn, I'll eat a sandwich at any damn time of the day.
Right?
And then plus, like, yeah, it was kind of something that was used. I mean, you know how they talk about Arabs at times, or anybody from like that area at times. So yeah, so that was why I chose that name. I thought it was perfect. Not many people get it. They just think it's only about, because I don't really say it every single time. This is what my nickname means. Yeah. Yeah, you don't know derogatory terms sometimes until you're like, oh, oopsie, so many things I've been saying derogatory, but never have known. I definitely want to ask everybody, like, if you have like a last word when it comes to, you know, how we can address the situation better, what society needs, anything like that. You know, if you want to wrap it up with that, and then I don't know, somebody, if we just want to all just say goodbye. I mean, right? I don't have to like do anything super crazy, do I? Jonathan, you have to edit this out.
We just want to give Jonathan something.
Jonathan, you have to edit this out.
We just want to give Jonathan something to do.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if we're gonna edit stuff out, I mean, this doesn't have to be edited out, but I kind of wanted to tell you guys this story because it's terrible, but also I think it also
Yes,
like
tell me
is
a
one of the
story.
most perfect examples of. And I don't always like the term toxic masculinity because I think it gets thrown around a lot, but this is like probably peak toxic masculinity. And this was somebody who is related to me. And if this goes on, I don't want to say specifically who it is, but somebody who's very closely related to me, who was married. And I found out from some mutual friends, you know, kind of some stuff that happened with him and his wife, because before he got married, I had kind of taken him aside and I was like, look, you know, you guys know how it works as far as being very gentle and getting someone to where they need to be before you begin your process of being intimate with them. And so I like kind of tried to explain that to him, and he's like, yes, I get it. Like, you know, you don't have to explain that to me. And anyway, from what I understood, that is not how things went whatsoever. And his wife was in an extreme amount of pain, and like, I guess like apparently she had passed out. This is a terrible story, but he later on was bragging about this because he viewed it as somehow representing that he was very well endowed because he had hurt her so bad or something like that. And I was like, what?
No.
Like, anyway, yeah, it's one of the, I don't know. I was debating on whether I wanted to tell that story, but I think it kind of exemplifies. I think it kind of exemplifies how, like, I don't know, people can, especially guys who are taught something means something else, as if you know that somehow means that he's well endowed or should be respected as a man because of what happened there. Like, I don't know. I was ashamed to be related to him at that moment. I'll just say that. But
it also is like a kind of coping mechanism. I think sometimes people do, and I'll be the first to admit that I use humor as a coping mechanism and tend to maybe tell or say inappropriate things. And maybe we could give him a little bit of a break, in that maybe this was his highly inappropriate coping mechanism with the situation that even he himself felt bad about and doesn't know how to verbalize, because, part of misogyny is not giving even men a space to talk about their feelings. In fact,
True.
vilify talking about your feelings so that you would feel bad for even wanting to do that. And then that leads to other coping mechanism behaviors that can sometimes be way worse in many ways. And so I think that's another bad adverse effect, as you might say, to misogyny in itself, is these kinds of stories, exactly, where people are ill prepared and then don't know how to cope with the fallout and the guilt. And I'm sure he felt bad for it, but then on the other hand, maybe somebody told him a really bad joke, and then that gave him the idea that this was the way to cope with it, and everybody laughed, and there you go. So misogyny hurts everybody.
Yes, that does.
The more you know.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Well, and the more we talk about it too. I mean, I think we're talking about this, and we're talking about, like as many aspects of it that we can possibly think of and how it affects us. And we're missing a lot of perspectives, because we could invite 100 people here and get 100 different perspectives that are slightly different, but similar, and all being affected by misogyny. But what's a problem is these cults, like the one we all came from, that clearly isn't having the conversation. You go to their website and they have 2 entries to talk about it, and it is a big problem that's going to affect a lot of people. And they don't have in-depth conversations about how these things happen or the bad effects of them. They just kind of tell you, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do things. And then we're not going to talk about it either, because talking about it leads to thinking about it, and then that leads to change. We don't want to go there. And so I think that the like Jehovah's Witnesses organization, they come up with a lot of other terminology like headship, and they have 607 entries to talk about all the different ways that we should worry about that and think about that. But we're not really going to encourage any conversation about why these other aspects, these toxic traits, if you will, are harmful, because that's really what it means. I mean, I know a lot of people throw out toxic masculinity, and they use that term sort of interchangeably with a lot of other things that might not fit very well. But the idea of toxicity is just that. It is something that is poisoning us slowly. It is something that we are exposed to that is causing us harm. And it can be masculinity. It can be a lot of things, but this is just one specific thing to talk about. And I find that the family members that I have that are still Jehovah's Witness don't want to have these kinds of conversations. They'll shut them down really quickly, and then they'll go back to like I said, the Bible says that this is the arrangement, and this is just how things are, and this is how we have to accept it. And then that shuts conversations down.
Yep.
And that's it.
And then
I think at the end of the day, in order to put any change in effect, is there needs to be just diversity at the top, and there's not. There's a majority white male.
There's no female representation at all.
No female. Yeah. No. And there's only one person of color. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. This is an American business that's masquerading as a religion. Like, it's not.
I wonder if are there people with disabilities at like Bethel and stuff like that, or do they?
There's infirm people.
Is there?
Right.
Okay.
Like
I have no. Oh well, I guess. I just wonder how much they really care about people like that, because at the point where you can't be used, I just feel like you're just like a corporation will just fire somebody without, even though you've been loyal.
So my mom raising my handicapped sister, she had a wheelchair. She breathed through a trach in her throat, and she gets fed through a tube in her stomach. She's very complex. And needless to say, they gave us like an out all the time. Like there really was no expectation that we had to be participating in service or really anything else, because it was pretty obvious when she'd show up to the meetings how challenging it was to take care of my sister. And I think it was more of a like, just don't rock the boat. Like there. You just do your thing over there. We'll not give you a hard time. But nobody really helped her either. So I would definitely say they're not exactly pro disabled people. Like they're not really there to again, this is all about conformity, and it's a one size fits all situation. And you're not gonna, I mean, even endometriosis is a type of disability that is crippling in many ways. So it's not, they're not going to accommodate those things. You're just going to get told well, are you sure you can't make it? Jehovah will be really disappointed if you don't.
And not every disability presents itself as just something like you can see, like endometriosis. It might not be visible, but it's something that you're suffering with on the inside.
The whole meeting format is not neurodivergent friendly. Like to sit still for that long and just focus on one thing.
I don't know if you notice, but I'm like literally moving in my seat constantly because
and I'm like,
it's really difficult.
And then throwing my dog around apparently.
I was gonna say I don't know how like if you don't have like if you're a guy without any like privileges in the congregation, or if you're a woman and you're waking up, I don't know how you can get through it, because I was still a ministerial servant all the way up almost until the end. It was like a month before I left, I stepped down. And then they still let me do the mics and sound box and stuff like that. So I almost always had something to do while I was at the Kingdom Hall. And that allowed me to not have to keep focusing on the information, because it's just mind numbing. So I would just say props to any woman who's going through that and having to just sit there and deal with it, because like I said, it was nice to have other things to preoccupy my time with and to focus on, instead of just having to sit there and listen.
I was always
that's why I wanted to do my
brothers at the back. Because they would stand at the back and maybe they'd count people, they'd have their pad and they'd be walking up the aisle. Like, please get me out of this seat.
I was really good at sitting still. I could sit still for a really long time. But it doesn't mean that my brain was on track. So I would just be like a million miles away in my brain, but like
floating off.
But I looked like I was paying attention.
I was so bad. Like at the convention, I'd have a bag of lollies and like I'd have my phone out, and I'd just be like, I just could not sit still. I'd go to the bathroom, I'd come back, I'd try my best to do notes, but I'd always end up drawing. Like it's just and I'm sure people looked at me like, what is she doing?
The worst, what drove me nuts is every Sunday there'd be a different dude reading the Watchtower. So for those who are watching on Sundays, well, at least it used to when we would meet in person back in the day on Sundays, there would be these paragraphs that you would have to read. And then after every paragraph, you'd ask, the guy on the podium would ask the question, and the people in the audience would answer. And then the person with the mic would come to you with the mic so you could answer the question. But I would want to claw my ears and my eyes out when some of those brothers would read so slow. And I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know. I couldn't tell you if they thought maybe it was they were being more emphatic or something. I would just read ahead, and then I would just try to occupy myself and just read ahead, or go into the Bible, the scripture recommended, just read ahead.
And when the watch
I
showers were
couldn't
like
do it.
25 paragraphs long or
Mhm.
something, like, and you'd look at the end and be like, no, I've got to sit here, like, we've got to go forever.
You know what I loved? What I loved is when they were extra long and then they would have to do a halfer, because usually the halfer would be a shorter watchtower study, because you'd have to stop at like 16, and then the next study would be like 17 through like 38 or something weird like that. I can't add.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, it didn't happen that often, but it would happen sometimes. You're like, oh yes, this is going to be an early
I think
study.
that in that case, like if they were going over time, they would just ask the question and not read the paragraph.
Yeah,
Which I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's good. Yeah.
I love that too. The round robin of just like banging out the questions. And then you get somebody who just had the longest ass answer too. Like they thought they were doing something. They really thought they were doing something. Oh, shut up.
Guilty. Anyway.
Sorry, Joe.
It's not
Sorry,
me.
buddy.
I mean, you have to. You want to be intellectual. We've gotten to a point where we're like, okay, we get the basics. Okay, we've got this stuff. Now we want more. And you realize, like, you're not really learning anything new. There's nothing really new to learn.
No.
They don't really offer like any kind of higher education when you get more and more, and you want to learn more detail about something. So you just start making up the detail. And then that causes a lot of interesting issues.
Yeah.
I think that's why I went to a Spanish congregation, was because I was like, okay, I can just do like the children's answer, and like everyone will look at me like I'm amazing and spiritual because I just spoke a whole nother language, even though I just said like a sentence from
and
the
they're so
Watchtower.
proud of you for learning it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're like, wow. And I'm like, yay. All I said was like 3 words.
With Jehovah, all things are possible. See?
And like I love languages, so it was fun. It was a great way to occupy my mind in some aspects, more than just sitting there and reading the Watchtower.
Right.
Yeah.
What were we going to say, Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it was going off of what she had said. I'm trying to remember.
Not learning anything new from the Bible.
Oh yes, when I was talking about like, you know, giving the long answers. Thank you. A lot of times I would take like, because they'd have like scriptures or something, a scriptural reference, and so I'd go to that scripture and then I would try and look at something from like the Insight books or Bond volumes or something to find like something else to pull from it, to be like, well, when they were referencing this, if you look into that, you know what I mean, like. So like you said, we were just always craving some sort of intellectualism and like having to make it up half the time in order to not go insane, because everything is just so not dumbed down to the point where it's like you just feel like you're learning the same thing over and over and over again. So like
they give talks and they literally read definitions to you. Well, the definition of this is... I think I understand what the definition of soup is. Thank you, sir. Okay,
not soup for you.
No soup for you. I love Seinfeld. Does anybody... What? Does anybody have any anything that they want to wrap up with, as far as... because we talked about time, but we didn't specify if how long y'all want to go for, or you just want to go until we go.
I think this is
I think we've come to kind of a natural end in the conversation. It sounds like
yeah, we can all stare at each other for a bit. Yeah, I guess just let women do the things, and that'll be good. That is my final.
Okay, my awkward stare is done. My awkward stare, I'm done. Yeah, right.
I couldn't even. I'm like, I have the idea for an awkward stare, and I can't do it.
But really, yeah, I think that's a great sum up. Let women do what they need to do to take care of themselves.
Anyone?
Yeah, anybody.
Be inclusive. Be inclusive, guys.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Those guys, the Watchtower guys.
No, yeah. What about you, Dr. TimeWaster?
How are we
going to change the world, damn it? Give me the answer. Doctor, please, doctor.
Wait, we had that answer. The answer was to go around grabbing people's
yes,
wieners.
Yes, we will stop
how we're
all
changing the
war
world.
violence by just grabbing
Yeah.
everyone's genitals and stopping the wars.
Yes.
We'll confuse them.
Done.
It's gonna work. I think we're onto something.
It'll work to something. I don't know how, so, but it will work to something.
Thank you for letting me interrupt. Carry on.
Is this really worth fighting over, guys?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about this topic for a really long time. There's lots of different things we could bring up, different aspects. We could just call this part 1, and then come back again and pick up where we left off and bring in some new ideas and topics. I think this is until the problem is gone, we will still have to discuss. We'll have to keep talking about it, and until it is not so much of a problem anymore, I guess. So part 1.
Yep.
Done.
Part 1. I like that. What about you, Joe? Is there anything that you want to wrap up with? Any words of wisdom? Any go suck it? And I mean, whatever.
I would just kind of piggyback off of what Dr. TimeWaster had said earlier about just trying to be more inclusive and letting more voices be heard, because I think when the way that the organization operates is just kind of silences those who aren't in positions of authority because, whatever biblical justification they're giving. But I think once you start opening those doors, you start hearing what people are actually going through. And I think it starts to kind of open your mind and open your perspective to somebody else's situation. And you have a better idea of how to deal with some of those difficult situations that come up. Or maybe you're not even the one who deals with them. Maybe somebody else who's more qualified and actually has experience in that area is the one that should take over and handle that situation. So anyway.
Yeah. There's always going to be issues and problems as such that are going to be overlooked if, as you've all said, if we don't see representation at the top of whatever the organization may be, the Jehovah's Witnesses, another religion, the government, whatever. If you only see a certain kind of person, they're not going to understand things that somebody else would. They need that perspective. I don't have a lot of male perspective when it comes to, how you might be treated when it comes to, toxic masculinity stuff. So that's why it's good that I get to hear your opinion. It brings new things to light to me that I have to remember. It harms you also, and so on and so forth. So if you care at all about being inclusive, no matter who you are, look at your job, just start talking about it. Look at every situation around you, your friend group. I mean, maybe you don't live in an area where you can be friends with every single person, but if you only have friends of a certain group, then you might be missing out on some perspectives just on the world that you're not getting, other cultures, etc., like that. So start talking to each other and discussing and being open-minded. And I think that's going to be a good step. It's not going to heal all yet, but we're still going to keep talking because it's the best thing we got right now. It's just talking about it, and hopefully some of these kids growing up won't fall for the old scammeroo, the old wham bam thank you ma'am scammeroo.
When people don't talk about something, you tend to think that you're the only one that is experiencing it, that's going through it. If you come across a room full of people all talking about the same problem that you're noticing and that you're having, you don't feel isolated and you don't feel alone or weird or that you're the odd one out or that something's wrong with you. So talking about stuff, normalizing talking about it is, I think, a really big step in just, getting people to recognize that there maybe is a problem as well.
Yeah. Yeah, just so you can see it, because you don't. I don't see things sometimes until people point it out to me. Mistakes I've made. It's just it's human nature to make mistakes. It's how you resolve the problems that shows you what you're made of.
Exactly.
It shows other people your character, if you're a substantial character or not.
And
'Cause
remember, if
deflecting-
you have big titties, it may be your fault, but it's their problem.
Just don't wear a Bow Wow shirt and you'll be fine.
It's their problem, not mine.
That is too funny. Oh my gosh, that is the worst. Y'all, we should definitely make sure that we go around and give everybody our information, like where people can find us. So if Michelle, do you want to start? We can go down around them up to Jane.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Thatexjwwitch on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah, that's where I am.
And that is that. Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe, where can we find you?
On TikTok, I am Exjwfun, and on YouTube, I am JW History Made Easy. So,
Okay.
Is it easy?
Jane.
Is
Is
it?
it?
I am Dr. TimeWaster 2.0 on TikTok. If you go to Dr. TimeWaster without the 2.0, you will not interact with me because I am locked out of that account. So that's it. That's all I do. I do that, and I joined the Apostate Coalition, and so I come here and I give little tidbits of my opinions in my brain, and that's it. That's what I do. So
Nice.
Yeah. Starting the dialogue.
Right.
You can now find me here also too. I mean, everybody here you probably will find quite often on the Apostate Coalition, hoping that we can get some other different perspectives from other cults and high control religious groups. And that is all definitely coming down the pike. We'll get there. But you can find me here. You can find me on Rion-Cult Tastic on YouTube. You can still find me, Tax the Churches, on TikTok. My account had gotten banned, but I have retrieved it, thankfully, because I was mass reported. And Twitter, I am Annette_Yahoo. And I think that is all the places that you can find me. But yeah, I make a lot of different kind of religious deconstruction videos. You name it, I've done it. Probably will do it again. Keep doing it because they hate me, because they hate us for it. So I'm going to definitely keep doing it. Ha, 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 ha. Eat that, patriarchy. Ha. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. This has been eye-opening. I have actually kind of opened my eyes to some stuff. So whenever this does make it onto the air, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go through and take some notes. So there might be some things that I want to dive back into and maybe get into more specifics, and maybe even more just examples from our own life or things of that nature, or maybe even some more literature, looking up some information like you had with misogyny. I think that was a good idea.
I think I'll do some personal study before our next one. I'm going to meditate.
Don't forget to count your time. Count your time.
And maybe people watching can put in the comments any of their experiences well, or any examples that they can think of, or topics that we could discuss, because the comment section of this video could also be a great place to have further conversations as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is an opportunity if you see it as one. Don't the Jehovah's Witnesses see it that way? So I think we need to start seeing it that way. I'm going to start preaching at every opportunity I get.
You can count this time in the Apostate Coalition. We just get piñata parties at the end if we have enough points. So
there's no other reward. There's no paradise, but maybe some candy or something from it. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk about this next. And please make sure y'all hit the like, subscribe, the bell, so you know when we're making new content. And you can follow along our journeys, because a lot of us are still deconstructing and we're figuring a lot out. And this wild, wild world. So you can watch that as it happens. And if you happen to know of anybody who has left high control religion and is looking for a place maybe to meet other people and talk about and discuss what you've gone through, we'd love to hear from you. So please make sure you let us know in the comments below. All right, y'all. Thank you. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, he just hopped out. It was like, bye, bitches. That's so funny.
Stay with me! I'm on you like glue! All right!
Hi, guys. Can I skate with you?
Nah, you're just a girl.
No kidding.
Go ho!
Let her try. You might be surprised.
Okay, but
Thanks.
wow, look at that!
Don't judge people till you give them a chance.
Because there's a chance you could be wrong. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
It's about the things that we overcome. Tomorrow's a new day. I will find a way. What if this was your destiny? All that pain just so you could see everything you need is inside you.